Dig around in your working folder until you find an image called springflowers.psd. It's time to change gears. Up to this point, what have we done? Well, we've worked with brushes. Existing brushes, building our own, making a copyright stamp, making a primate jump around on the screen, changing colors, changing sizes, all that kind of stuff. This is my segue into using a different brush, the history brush. Now, the history brush is right over here, and it coincides with the history panel, which is over here. They work hand and glove. History came out in version 5.5. Now, I'm not talking CS 5.5. I'm talking the original 5.5. A lot of people don't remember, but Photoshop only had one undo. And if you missed your chance at that undo, too bad, you didn't have it anymore. Let's look at the panel first. This panel controls our undos. Now, before we get there, if you go up to the word Photoshop on a Mac or Edit in Windows, and you go down to Preferences and select Performance, you will notice that we have a history state option here, and it says 20. You can take that option up to 1,000 if you want to. I wouldn't really recommend that because you're consuming a lot of RAM and scratch disk to hold all of those undos. But it's nice to have more than 20. You can change that number if you want to. I'll just leave it alone and get out. Let me make that a little bit bigger. If I come over here and begin graffiti, and I start doing this, notice the history states brush tool, brush tool, brush tool. It's recording everything that I do. Maybe put a line here, and one up here, and one down here. I'm just having fun destroying this image. Now, most people do know this. I can walk back up the ladder. And as I do, it will remove those things. Now, I only have 20. So if I go over 21, it'll drop off the top one and keep the last 20 things that I've done. So I can do that up and down the ladder with history. I can bring them back again. History, by definition, is linear. So if I come all the way back up here to open and begin again with the paintbrush, watch what happens to the grayed out ones. Well, they go away and we start all over again. So history in the panel is recording what I do. It also has something called a snapshot. This is taken when the image is first open. So let's say we get beyond our 20 undos. We've been working for an hour or more, even saving every once in a while, which is a good thing to do. And all of a sudden you realize, oh man, about an hour ago, I really did something really dumb and, I can't get back to it. I don't even have the undos to do that. I wish I could start all over again, but I really can't because I've been saving the document every 15 minutes. And if I close it, it's just going to reopen it again the last time I saved it. If you click here, Spring Flowers PSD, I don't care if you've been working for 6 hours, as long as it's still open. This is not saved with the document, remember that. If I click that snapshot, it will take me back to the original image. Now, knowing that, we can have some fun. But let me do this first. Let me come back down here and bring in the brush tool. I can back off like this, sequentially. But let's say, for the sake of argument, these are what I wanted to do, and this one is not what I wanted to do. So to get to this one in a linear history, I have to back off until I get to that one. But that's where the history brush comes in. If I come over here and select the history brush right here, and this is the default setting for the brush, and I come over here and I begin painting, what I'm painting is the snapshot. And the snapshot was taken before I put this stuff on it. That's what I love about that history brush. I can go back in hours later and restore just one part of the image to the way it looked originally when I first opened it. I mean, I know this has been there for like 100 years, but I still love it. It's a great feature. Now let's take it back to the original because we sure aren't done here. I want to use that feature of a snapshot to create some work of art. Let's go down here and let's select our half moon icon and let's go into black and white. Now choose what black and white you want. That's kind of interesting, but no. I think I want maybe this one right here. I'm happy. I'm going to go ahead and collapse that down. Next, I'm actually going to put this into this and make it permanent. I'm going to use a shortcut, Control, that's Control in Windows, Command on a Mac, E, merge down. Now, let's go back into history here. See this button here that looks like a camera? Watch what happens when I click it. It creates another snapshot of the state of the image in grayscale. So I'm going to call this one grayscale. Now, here's the cool thing. If I click here, I get it in color. If I click here, I get it in grayscale. If I want to repaint part of the image in color, I'm already set up. All I have to do, and this is the fun part, is pick up the history brush, but I would recommend that you use a new layer, just in case you don't like it. And then you come over here and notice what's happening. It's not painting yellow. It's painting the flower back. So as I do this, I have one flower in color. Understand something about the human eye. We use this in marketing all the time. The human eye processes color information more aggressively. In other words, we're drawn toward it. So a lot of times in teaching or in marketing or whatever you're trying to do, if I need my students to look at something and it's important for me that they really look at a certain thing, I'll put that one thing in color and then I'll put everything else in shades of gray. And by just default, you're going to look at it because your eyes process it that way. Anyway, I've made that flower. I can turn off the background here. And you can see I've missed a couple of spots. Paint them back in. And we come back out again. Now that in and of itself is actually pretty cool. If I click on spring flowers again, watch what happens down here. All goes away because that was not there. That layer was not there when I made that snapshot. Neither was it on this one. So if you wanted a snapshot with that extra layer, with that yellow flower, you could make one. You could make as many of these as you want. Let's do this. We're back on the original. Let's go up to filter, and let's go into something like oil paint. That's a fun one. I like this feature. Makes it look like an oil painting. Now let's make it more aggressive. Yeah, something like maybe that, so we can really see it. Go ahead and click OK. Make a snapshot of that. I would recommend that you do name these. Now, if we go back to spring flower, grayscale, oil paint, the cool thing is the history brush will use whichever one we want it to use. So say we go back to spring flowers here, and maybe you want some of the areas in grayscale. So you come down to here, but don't click there because it takes the whole image to grayscale. Come back here. See this icon here? That's exactly what the history brush is using. If I come here and click, it's now going to use grayscale. So if I come over here and pick up the history brush and come over here and begin painting, these areas I'm painting out into grayscale. And let's do this one up here too. But you know what? I like that oil paint thing. I want some of these to be in oil paint. So we come here, don't click here, click here. Now you can make the new layers. It would be probably better in the long run if you had those blank layers over there. But if we come over here again with this one, we're now painting in oil paint. Now probably the most common use of what we are doing is to have images in grayscale and then bring color back into them very quickly. I use that all the time, probably almost every day. But in this case too, you can do some very, very cool stuff just simply by understanding that history is more than just multiple undos. It's about snapshots, and it's about that brush over here. And once you get into it, you start creating all these states. You can have a lot of fun, but you can also do some really amazing things.